Can you hear Bob, Andy?
No, not at all. I didn't realise he tried to speak. Could you hear Bob down there?
I hadn't
Very,
tried.
very thankful.
Answering me.
Can you hear Andy? Delma's nodding. Yeah.
It's very faint. I mean, I'll have to try hard, won't I? But it's really, I'm not. Fiona, can you hear at all? You can. Okay. All right. I'm sure it's not me, but anyway. Okay. All right. Press on then.
Well, I'm going to pass over to Wendy to sort out the technicality of the appointment of the chair for the meeting. Wendy.
Yes, dear everyone, due to the very sad news last week, we don't have a chair for our meeting, and Councillor Bob Slay has kindly offered to stand in for chair for this meeting.
Is everyone content that I chair the meeting on this particular occasion? It's only for this one meeting. Thank you. On that basis, before I formally open the meeting, I do want to make a few comments with regard to the very sad passing of our colleague, Councillor Ian Brookfield. I think we all know that Councillor Brookfield was a great champion of Wolverhampton, but equally a great advocate for the principles which the Combined Authority hopes to work under. And I found his support, and I know other people around this room will have found his support absolutely second to none in his commitment to try and do the best he could for the people both of Wolverhampton, but of the wider West Midlands. And I therefore want to reflect in the minutes of the meeting our condolences to Councillor Brookfield's family, quite clearly, regard to the work he did for the people of Wolverhampton and the Combined Authority, and I hope everyone here today will support those sentiments. Before I open the meeting, I'm going to pass on to the newly appointed leader of Wolverhampton Council, Councillor Simpkins, to see if he wishes to add a few words.
Thank you for that, Bob. That's very kind of you, and those sentiments will be taken back to the family. Can I just say that in the Economic Growth Board and Ian's portfolio with regard to this was really key and at the heart of what he wanted for Wolverhampton, but also what he wanted for the wider context of the Combined Authority. It's really important that we do collaborate with each other and work to carry on the work that he has done. And I'm sure that we always will do. And there's not really much more I can say about that because you all know Ian personally yourself, but he really was a big driver of this city moving forward, and you know the changes that he's made, and also hopefully the commitment that he put to the Economic Growth Board and his portfolio we will see the fruits of in the near future. So can I thank you again for those kind sentiments and all the ones that have sent things into us. We shall be announcing the funeral date as soon as the family release that, and I think it'll be fitting for us to send something from the Combined Authority for the work that he did, but more importantly from the Economic Growth Board, just as a testimony to what he did and what he wanted to achieve within this brief. I will make a plea that please do not send any flowers to the address. If there's any cards that want to be sent, please do send them to Wolverhampton City Council, our office, or myself there, and then, like I say, the announcement will be later disclosed, and you'll all be welcome, as I should imagine, or pay tribute to him. He was a larger than life man, and he really batted above the averages for this city. And I like to think that he did that in this brief. And like I say, we'll continue that hard work. But thank you for all your kind sentiments that have already been sent and the future ones. So thanks very much. Thanks, Bob, for giving me the opportunity to say that.
Thank you, Councillor Simpkins. I think we all reflect on that. That's very kind of you. I'll go through introductions now. I'll just go quickly around the table. I first of all want to welcome Councillor John Cotton, who, as many of you know, is the new leader of Birmingham City Council and has taken the time to come to EGB today. So welcome to you, John.
Thank you.
So I've introduced you. We'll go around the table. I'm Councillor Bob Slay, former leader of Soil Council, Cabinet Member for Finance and Investment in the Combined Authority.
Matthew Hammond, Chair of the West Midlands Growth Company.
Katie Trout, Director of Policy and Partnerships at the West Midlands Growth Company.
Mike Wright, Chair of the West Midlands Innovation Board.
Jonathan Skinner, Head of Economic Policy at the Combined Authority.
Sarah Weaver, former Chair of Coventry and Warwickshire Local Enterprise Partnership. I'm here as a business representative.
Paul Edmonds, Head of Economic Development Delivery, Combined Authority.
Go back and I'm Senior Policy Officer at the Combined Authority.
Councillor Paul Bradley, I'm a Cabinet Member for Communities and Economic Delivery in Dudley.
Councillor Alexander, I'm the Deputy Leader of Water Council.
Tim Johnson, Chief Executive, City of Wolverhampton Council.
Councillor Matt Dormer, Leader at Redditch Borough Council.
Councillor Ian Courts, Leader of Solihull Council.
You already know me, Councillor Steve Simpkins, Deputy Leader, Acting Leader, but Portfolio Holder for Economic Development in the City of Wolverhampton.
Thank you. We have a number of our participants on the screen this afternoon. You're a little bit far away in the room, but even so, if you wish to speak, either usual arrangements, raise a hand or even wave, and we'll try and pick you up to make a contribution to today's event. So I know some of you who are on the screen will actually be making a contribution by way of presenting elements within the report. I'll now ask Wendy, are there any apologies for absence?
Yes, Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Duggins, Councillor Piper, Lee Barron, Anika Barley and Tom Wesley. In terms of Lee Barron, we have Rob Johnson for Lee Barron joining us online. Thank you. And we also have Henriette for Craig Sullivan.
Thank you. Most of the meeting is a public meeting. We do actually go into private session later in the agenda, and at that point in time, any member of the public or anyone on the screen who is not authorised to be in the meeting will obviously have to withdraw at that point in time. We've been given notification of substitutes. As been said, Rob Johnson is on the screen representing the TUC. Declarations of interest. If any members are reminded of the need to declare any disclosable prejudicial interest that have an item being discussed during the course of the meeting. In addition, the receipt of any gift or hospitality should be declared where the value of it is thought to have exceeded £25. Any declarations of interest in the room? None indicated. Any on the screen? None indicated. Fine. Thank you. I have no chair's remarks as item 6 in the papers. We therefore have the minutes of the meeting of the 15th of February 2023 at pages 1 to 12. I'm asking for those to be confirmed as a true record. Does anyone wish to make any amendments before I put the true record proposal? Nobody indicating in the room, nobody indicating on the screen. We will therefore take the minutes of the 15th of February 2023 as a true record of the meeting. The next item of business is the EGB terms of reference, which in essence you have the papers within the document pack at pages 13 to 20. As some of you will know, there's been a governance review of the Combined Authority, and one of the issues that came to the fore was the fact that we were not quorate on many occasions, and therefore the principal issue in the terms of reference is we've changed the level of quoracy required for decision making within this board. However, I'll take the. Is Julia on
We
this?
have Joe.
Oh, sorry, Joe. You're going to do the honours then. Thank you.
I will do very quickly. Can everyone hear me on screen or at home? Brilliant. As the report states, and as you all and as Councillor Slay has just stated, there has been a governance review, and there have been a lot of changes certainly in the past year, including the LEP integration, but also a number of new structures that have come into being that are supporting the business elements of our work. So the proposed terms of change for the terms of reference, as Councillor Slay has indicated, is changing from 5 constituent members to be quorate to 4 voting members. It will, we believe, make a difference. That's the principal change. And 4 voting members, unlike the previous terms, will actually include the mayor. Which is sort of that there has been a mismatch over a number of the boards and other groups. Obviously, as these are changes that are being made to the terms of reference, EGB you cannot adopt these. So it's asking you to take these to, or for WMC4 to consider these, and also to note the structures that are actually supporting the work of Economic Growth Board, which will get stronger And the final point to note is that we hope to have later in the year the full business recruitment policy, which Julia is working on at the moment, which is part of our LEP integration plan.
Thank you. Any questions in the room with regards to proposals? Not indicated. Any on the screen? Sorry, Councillor Courts, please.
Yeah, just one point, which is in terms of representation of business and the business voice. SMEs doesn't come out very clearly. I mean, there's reference to business, but how we would deal with that?
That's being picked up in the business policy review as part of the LEP integration plan, and currently Tom Westley is representing an SME perspective at the moment. So we hope that as you adopt these, you can become for it, and as the business policy, business recruitment policy comes forward later in the year, and that will deal with everything across the Combined Authority in terms of business appointments. That will have a fuller and more transparent process.
Want to come back?
Yeah, I mean, one thing is about representation. I was just interested in the LEP integration. It's 2.9, and you know, it's the 5 representations there. And I just didn't think SMEs came out, and it would come under Business Insights Forum. But I just really want to make sure that we are hearing them and listening to them. That's all.
Good point. We'll take that back. Councillor Simpkins.
It's just on that point that you know, the larger business in this city, in the city region, will have a big, large voice. But really, for local authorities, the cream on top of the cake is the SMEs. So it should be enshrined. And if we're doing the policy change for the governance procedure, that should be reflected now, not later. I need to understand the relevance of Andy having a street. I have no problems with him having a vote here, but then it gets ratified at the board anyway, where there's a voting process there. So can somebody explain to me, and I don't need it now for later on, what's the thinking and reasoning behind that, so as I can understand, then they bring that back to our business community, that it's not just the elected members, but it's also business representation to the point of the SMEs as well.
Just very briefly, Councillor, the terms of reference already included, or the existing Economic Growth Board terms of reference referred to voting members, but the quorum for the meeting, which is as stated, the major change actually referred to 5 constituent authorities, which meant that virtually every, or 5 constituent members. So that actually it is to reflect the voting membership, and also to ensure that as one of 3 decision-making boards of the WMCA, that you can actually make decisions, because nothing that's happened when you've been in Cora has actually been, can actually have technically been taken forward without going through WMCA board. So there are gaps in timelines that have proved tricky this year, particularly with integration, UK SPF and business cases.
So can I just come back? That's really important that we understand the mechanisms of this, because in other portfolios and other decision making, we have a board. When it's in quorum, and investment board and housing and land have been in quorum, it is then sent to the board members to have a vote. So why is that process not being adopted the same?
It is.
It's just because Economic Growth Board, if it has met and been in quorum, which if we've had constituent authorities attend via hybrid or dialing in, that meeting is in quorum.
Yeah.
You're not physically
I know
in place. So yeah, apologies. But the and then the process has been that it goes to WMCA board as effectively as the papers and minutes of that meeting.
If you may, Chair, there's 7 unitaries within the Combined Authority, and there's only 5 voting bodies within this board. Why is there not 7?
It'd be consistent now with the governance of the wider CA. So perhaps if we could provide a kind of,
you'll have to, because I'm a bit unsure on the way that this is moving forward.
We can pick that up.
Okay, that's fine. This is in essence being core within this particular forum to make those decisions. The bill matters will be reserved for the board. The delegations are quite clear. So, I'll come back.
No, that's fine.
Okay, fine. Right, I'm therefore going to put the proposals in the papers, which are at A, to note, B, to adopt revised terms of reference to Appendix A1, B, to ask the WMCA board to ratify these changes, specifically the change in quorum levels, and D, to note the structure supporting the work of EGB. Are we all content?
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you. I therefore move on to economic conditions in the West Midlands. I think Delma is on the screen. The papers are in the pack at pages 21 to 36. Delma, do you want to just give us a few of the succinct points? I think we make an assumption people have read the papers, but clearly, if you want to highlight anything, that would be helpful to us.
Yes, many thanks, Councillor Saying. Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, I'll keep it very succinct and just focus on three of the headlines in terms of the recent performance of the economy. Similar to when we last met in February, it continues to be, unfortunately, a mixed picture. So on the positive side, we're seeing supply chains return back now to some degree of reliability. But what we're still seeing is a lot of that volatility in the economy, a lot of expansionary pressures from all parts of the economy. And obviously, we have to see fully how the impact of the raised interest rates is going to have on this demand. On Monday, the Purchasing Managers Index came out and it actually reported a slight decline for the West Midlands, down to 52.6 in June. So this slowdown's reflecting, unfortunately, signs of slight economic deceleration. However, figures are still above 50, which indicates growth. So there is still positivity and there is momentum across the business community stemming from onboarding of new clients and demand resilience. And some of the official figures of the economy, so the official gross value added for 2021, they are lagged, but they came out in April and they showed for the Met area a total gross value added rising to £71 billion. So this is the highest level since we started tracking. So really positive growth, but what the issue is that it's still not outpacing the national average, so leaving us with this persistent output gap. But when you look at the trade and investment, the more recent trade statistics and investment statistics are indicating a much more positive trend. So I am slightly optimistic that when we see the official 2022 figures, they will be more positive. Trade figures in particular, Q1 2022 compared to 23, we've had this really positive increase of £6 billion. So we're now up to nearly £32 billion. So an extra £2 billion boost will get us back to our height of 34 that we saw in 2018. And alongside this positive trajectory in exports, I'm sure colleagues from the growth company will highlight, which we've all seen, the really impressive recently released FDI figures, where we saw the largest percentage increase across all regions and largest increase outside London. So as always, mixed picture, but we are seeing some really positive signs there in some of the drivers of economic growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Delma. The report is before us. Any questions or points of clarification we want from Delma? It is for noting. Any points people wish to raise? No members around the table. On the screen, any indications from anyone they wish to raise any points? None indicated. I therefore go to the recommendation, which is in essence to note the current economic conditions for the West Midlands, including the monthly dashboard at Appendix 1, and insight from the region's business via the Business Insight Forum. We're all content to note that accordingly.
Yep.
Agreed. Corin. Okay, we therefore move on to two items which I think the growth company are going to present for us. West Midlands Growth Company Global West Midlands. I'm going to pass, I think, in the first instance to you, Matt, to give us an introduction, and then Katie to pick up the points within the report.
Yeah, thank you. And
it's at page 37, by the way.
Thank you, Bob. Can I just firstly add, in addition to your opening words, a special thanks on behalf of the growth company to Councillor Ian Brookfield as well. A lot of you will have already known the work that he did, but there were some other things that he did that were very much behind the scenes. his support of the review of the growth company over the last 12 months. And his activities, particularly linking to what we've just covered on trade, to not just being present, but working hard on a number of overseas trade missions, most latterly a trip to India, sadly, just before he became well. So let me just extend formally on behalf of the growth company our thanks for the work that Ian did as well through all of the period of his involvement. Just briefly, some opening remarks from me on this. Firstly, a thanks for in the spirit of what we just talked about, the collaboration that has been shown across the region whilst we've been undertaking a full review of the growth company's activities and essentially a reset of the expectations. We called for that reset ourselves at a time when many could have said, well, actually, there's no need for a reset. We've just come off the back of a pretty successful period through the Commonwealth Games, but we chose to actually act on that straight after the Games with a view to doing a reset for the next couple of years. I think that's been a very helpful period of discussion, which Katie will go into in a bit more detail, which reflects the growing individual needs of different parts of the Combined Authority area as well. And perhaps most importantly, linking into the Global West Midlands business plan, how we present the opportunities in this region on a global stage, which has been very much the international focus of where we're driving this to. In addition to that, there will clearly be a great deal of reporting through this board in particular, and we look forward to doing that with yourselves over the course of the next couple of years that is covered in this plan. And just lastly, before I hand over to Katie, just to say that the board has also been through the plan in some detail and approved that at our last board meeting also. Katie, over to you.
Thanks very much, Matt. So I think just to emphasise that the business plan that you see before you is very much a product of the outcomes of the growth company review that Matt's just mentioned, and also the regional expectations for how we should best use the Commonwealth Games Legacy Enhancement Fund that we've secured as a growth company. So this is ensured that the plan is very much on the basis of delivering the key functions that we've been doing for a number of years now: inward investment, capital attraction, and the visitor economy. Also the addition of strategic relationship management as a new function for the growth company, that we should be focusing on maximising the benefits of the business and tourism programme, so continuing on the successes that Delma's talked about there through the FDI figures, and having a full programme of international promotion, but really importantly focusing our activities on delivering against local and regional priorities, and then also having a strong suite of objectives and key results that enable you to better hold us to account for our performance as well. So that's a mixture of leading and lagging indicators, and that's what we've tried to do within the plan that you see. It's very much a product of discussions with our partners, particularly the local authorities and the Combined Authority, about seeing what you would like to see happen in your local areas. So a huge thank you to all of your teams for the engagement that we've had and the comments and feedback as well. So you'll have seen that the plan very much focuses around 4 strategic objectives, and these will be delivered by a series of different campaigns, core services and projects and programmes. And you'll see a set of metrics as well for what we hope to achieve over the next 2 years too. Critical to all of this will be very much a new way of working for us, so but both within the growth company, but also how we work with all of you too, which has to be underpinned by strong engagement, very close partnership working, and clear roles and responsibilities on both sides as well. We do a lot of formal reporting around that too. So as Matt said, if the plan is approved today, we'll come back on a quarterly basis to update this board on progress, but we'll also have quarterly sessions with each individual local authority, both at an officer and political level as well, so that we can fully update you as to how things are going. We can talk about new opportunities and any challenges that there might be as well. Whilst there is a clear plan here in front of you, we do recognise we need to be flexible and we need to be able to adapt to any changing circumstances or opportunities as well. So we will then use this plan as very much a baseline for our performance, and then we can change and respond to things with yourselves to get the best return on investment as well. We do also know that we need to refresh the plan on the back of the international strategy once that's approved. So this is very much going to be a live document for us, but any substantive changes will obviously bring back to this board for you to approve too. So whilst we're hoping for approval today, the delivery of the full plan is very much predicated on us getting approval from the investment board in October for the full funding from the Commonwealth Games legacy funding as well. and will continue to work with partners on the key deliverables and milestones that will be utilised if all that funding is secured. So I'll pause there and be very happy to take any questions.
Yeah, I think there may be some. Yeah, I mean, I think this is, from my perspective, I've read it, so I've read the document itself, so it's quite welcome. But clearly the issue about measures was really important, I think, to some of the previous conversations we've had within the review, particularly of the growth company's activity. But I will open it up to questions from the floor. I think we just need to make a point about the deliberative about being predicated on the full business case for the finance. We might just highlight that towards the end, if you
Yes,
don't
of
mind.
course.
Questions, Matt, please.
Just a question around 10.1, as you could probably guess, geographical area of implications. Kind of, you know, it used to be 3-let geography, and since then, I guess it's a case of, well, is that going to include the non-constituents, or is it going to remain around the old 3-let area? And, you know, either way, kind of don't forget us kind of thing. So that, yeah, that basically it.
Okay.
You want to answer as we go along, yeah?
Yeah, happy to do that. So very much a live and open discussion, I
Yeah.
think, and certainly one as the growth company we'd like to seek as quick a resolution on as we can. But this is one of the areas that wasn't resolved through the growth company review, and it was agreed that it would be brought back to the combined authority for further discussion. Certainly the funding that we have is vast majority of that is funding from the Mets. So we are very keen to get an agreement, I think, collectively from everybody as how best to utilise that funding and over what geography. So I'm really pleased that you raised that, and I think it'd be good if we can come back to that. I don't think it's a decision necessarily per se for the growth company to be able to answer on its own, but we would love to work with the combined authority and local authorities to work out how best to focus that money.
Yeah, I guess from our perspective of Redditch, is it, you know, the left geography, or is it the combined authority geography as it is now, including the non-constituent members? Okay.
The mayor's got his hand up, Andy.
He has. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. 2 points and a question, if you don't mind, Matt, Katie. A first point, just to say, like others, very pleased to see us get to this point, because obviously we've spent a lot of time reviewing the growth company, so it's a good collective piece of work. Thank you. Second point, I think it should just be called out. Delma mentioned the inward investment stats, but given the basic thrust of this is that we've got to invest in the growth company to get a return, and BATP was our sort of case study. It is notable the results that have now been delivered. Now, not even Mr. Army will convince me the growth company have done them all on their own. It's a team effort, but I think it's only right that we do just reflect that we've had huge success by investing in that capability in terms of inward investment. So my question, though, is, and you might say it's in there, Katie, and I've not understood it, is that in the devolution deal, there was a very clear commitment to come back to this question that I think is very important about the structures working with central government. And I can't see the line to that in the business plan. So can you help me with that?
So there is a reference to it in our ways of working, Andy. There is on 85 in terms of a paragraph there about how we'll be working much more closely with government through the delivery of this business plan. I think, as you've mentioned, through the business and tourism programme, one of the many things we learned through that is we can achieve an awful lot more if we combine sort of powers of local, regional and national government with the private and academic sectors. So we're keen to do a lot more on that. Deeper devolution deal has opened the door further on that piece, and we are having regular meetings with Department for Business and Trade now on the investment and trade side as to how best we do that. And then we've also had the opportunity with Department for Culture, Media, Sport and Visit England and Visit Britain around the destination development partnership as well on the tourism side. So it is only a small part, Andy, in there, and you might want to see kind of more detail about the sort of action plan and things that we do have with Department of Business and Trade. But that's the kind of hook, I suppose, in the business plan for what we're hoping to do.
And
so, if I may, Chair, then I'm pleased it's there. I hadn't clicked that, but I'm not asking you to write anything else in the business plan. But I think for this board, the way in which we hold the government to follow up on the commitment in the devolution deal, as Katie's described, is really important, because they still have most of the firepower in those two areas, and we need to get it more focused on our targets. So it's a key piece of work, really, Bob.
If I
Katie?
could just come back again, Andy. One of the things, obviously, we've got Department of Business and Trade and wider government very much involved with the West Midlands International Strategy Development.
Yeah.
And I'm pleased to say DBT has been engaged so far in all the kind of operational discussions that we've been having around that. Once we've got an agreed strategy with them, we will have a delivery plan which should then have all our collective resources aligned against a shared set of priorities. We will be refreshing the business plan at that stage, so there may be opportunities to kind of tie DBT and other departments in more fully at that point, Andy, as well, because we should have some hopefully commitments from them to deliver priorities that the region has in that international space.
Thank you. I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Matt, you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want one other point as well, Andy, and for everybody else, which is that the DBT role is quite important. So we've discussed with the Growth Company Board having the DBT in the room as an observer, not as a board member, not as a voting board member to the earlier points around governance, but nonetheless involved in the Growth Company activities as an observer.
Councillor Courts.
Yeah, just picking up, following on from Matt's point about the geography of all this. There's a reference 4.2 to enhance the profile and reputation of the region.
Mhm.
How on earth are you going to do that on the basis of a 7 Met geography? You know, because there are various assets around, you know, the non-com which are relevant. So I appreciate there's a financial issue, there's money issue, all those things to be dealt with. But, you know, what I am really looking to see, and I said it at the board meeting, is that, you know, the growth company uses its position to enhance, you know, the region as a totality in its competitive position regarding other parts of the country. I'm actually believe that we're on the right way. I'm happy with this, but you know, when I hear sort of 7 Mets, I think, you know, you cut out, heaven's sake, you know, Bill Shakespeare, as everybody knows around the world, that we're the region for that.
Good point. Yeah. Katie?
So certainly the way we would like to operate as a sort of minimum is that we have the narrative across the broader geography. So that would include as well as part of that. And then we will proactively seek to land investment within the 7 Mets, because that's currently where our funding's coming through. But if the 7 Met areas don't have sites that are available for those particular businesses, that's when we could look further outside of that geography. But again, we kind of need that as an approved position to be able to take that forward. But we absolutely agree with that point, Councillor Courts, that, you know, we need to properly compete globally. We need to have the largest scale possible and to include as many of the assets that our partners have, as well as part of that regional narrative. So I think that's really important that we are able to do that.
Can I come back?
No, I sort of slightly separate point. And again, you know, I shall be pleased. The narrative, you referred to it several times, and you know, we have a very strong narrative in the region. I'm never sure we demonstrate it quite as much as we could, although, you know, on the way. And I think it's very important that I refer to competitive strategy. I also think it's very important that we understand the obstacles that we have, and our strategy should be how we get over those to promote our place as a region, as a good place to invest.
Mr. Simpkins?
Yeah, again, the direction of travel is right, but there's other conversations about broadening the combined authority. I think we should take some time out to see exactly how that plays out. My biggest concern is the equity across the delivery, and that needs to be discussed. Good luck if you're going to get it done by October, because there's lots of discussions that are going to take place. But is it going to be fair and proportionate to what the needs are, or is it going to be, like my friend Ian says, that we do it on a global scale? I ain't got a problem with that, but it needs to be fair and proportionate and tackle the worst places for investment. What concerns me is, says if there's no sites within the 7 Mets, then we look to the, you know, 7 Mets have been starved of money all across the piece with regards to local authority funding, but we need to be fair and equitable about what we do, especially with the 7 Mets now. I'm happy to broker that discussion and bring us back more information on that, because I need to understand that before I can sign up to anything.
Okay, I think within ways of working, local priorities are identified as the process by which that is done. However, Councillor Courts.
Well, I just want to sort of slightly respond to that, and I mean, I understand, you know, where you're coming from on this, and you know, we all, you know, I was part of the original CA, as was Bob, and I'm not sure anyone else was.
I've been in from the beginning.
Very good.
In different
Well,
roles.
well, we all believed that the promotion of the region as a whole, and every part of it was going to be for the benefit of the region as a whole. And, this is really a principle that we need to stick to, because if you start saying, well, it isn't all about,
So no,
what I get, what I'm getting out of it. It's also because the more we can attract in the region, the more the likelihood that it's going to be of benefit to you and everyone else. And that's the principle why I'm urging that the key principle is we push the region as the place to invest, which of course we know it is.
Steve?
The central thing is that I said it has to be fair and equitable across the piece.
Yeah.
And I'm just asking for a discussion on that. Do I need some guarantees and reinsurances as that's the case? Because I was on the Combined Authority from the very start on the scrutiny function. The first investment we did was 10 million to Cannock Chase, which was great for them. But I need it to be fair and equitable across the piece.
I think what we do need to recognise that this document has been prepared with a very, very clear steer from the local authorities within its process. So I think that's covered in principle. We just need to make sure we pick up the points that you've made, Steve. I think that's absolutely right. But equally, the whole issue about promoting the strategic benefits of the region and promoting some of our key assets, I think we need to do that across the geography. Adrian, and sorry, Sarah first.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to wade into geography discussion. I'm just wondering, in terms of the good jobs for local people, are those jobs measured in the place that they work or the place that they live?
Yeah.
The place that they work.
Yeah, the place they work or live. Do you know?
It will be the place they work. In terms of we will measure where investment has landed and the number of jobs that are created on that particular site.
Right.
What we would want to be doing though is working with partners, both at a local authority and at the combined authority, to see how local people can access those jobs as well. So I think what we would like to see more of is linking up our knowledge, for example, what we're hearing in terms of skills requirements of businesses with skills teams at local authorities and at combined authorities, so that we can help ensure people have the right skills in an area to access those jobs as well.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the things we do have to remember in a geography context. And I'm one of the business representatives. Business doesn't care about political boundaries.
Yeah, that's right.
So we need to remember that what's good for the for the region, for the wider region, is going to be benefit. I'd also obviously like to make a wider plea on that in terms of strategic businesses. Andy and I were with Polestar yesterday. They've got a site in Leicestershire. They've got a site coming in Anstey. They're looking at expanding out across, again, the West Midlands as a whole. So I think thinking of those strategic relationship management, there is a piece around some of that. Those companies that are looking at a wider footprint as well as those that already have one.
Absolutely, yeah.
Why our function economic model is it as it is because we recognise right in the founding days that business didn't recognise political boundaries. That's why it was built on the basis that it was. Absolutely right. So quite well made. Adrian, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think one of the good key example of this geographical thing is how the Black Country's worked over the last 20 years, particularly the Black Country enterprise zones. The enterprise zone is predominantly in Wolverhampton and in Walsall, but it's had a fantastic impact on the rest of the Black Country and arguably the wider region. And I think that's the kind of model that we need to look at, because, as you say, the economy doesn't respect these political boundaries that us politicians get all excited about. And jobs don't respect those boundaries. For example, there's a brilliant site in Walsall that would actually impact on two other boroughs, Wolverhampton and Sandwell.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that it's in Walsall, that will impact on the three boroughs, and that's what we've got to focus on.
I think you're right. Okay, anything on the screen anyone wishes to contribute before I move on to the decisions? I think that's been very helpful. The recommendations are at page 37 in the report. Approve Global West Midland from WMGC's draft business plan for July 23 to 25. The other two items are some notes. Are we all fairly content? Looks like we are. Thank you. I then want to move on to part B of the West Midlands Growth Company's report, and that is the Major Events Fund and West Midlands International Strategy Update.
Thank
you
very
doing
much.
this, Katie?
Thank you very much, Councillor Slay. So just a very quick update on these two really important pieces of work for the growth company and also for the region as well. So in terms of the international strategy, you'll remember that this board commissioned the growth company back in December now to lead on the development of an international strategy for the region. And the aim being to have a strategy that internationalises the plan for growth and is very much aligned with local and regional strategies as well and supports their deliveries. So we're hoping to get a strategy with a clear set of priorities to 2030 that both exploit our strengths here as a region and look to address our challenges, you mentioned, Councillor Courts, across the themes of trade, investment, research and development, tourism, education and soft power, so things like cultural institutions and diaspora as well. This is very much, as I mentioned, going to be co-developed with the government, which should mean that we should have that shared delivery plan by the end of it, where we have our collective resources aligned to a shared set of priorities. We recently commissioned OCO Global and Metro Dynamics to work with us in this area, and they both bring a wealth of experience in developing similar strategies. Governance arrangements have been stood up as well, and we've started engagement with all the local authorities across the region, and we're starting with a number of other partners as well, and there'll be more coming in the kind of weeks and months to come as well. We'll look to bring emerging findings through to a future meeting of Mayor and Met leaders as well, hopefully early September time, and then we'll bring to the September meeting of this board a draft strategy document and emerging findings for you to all properly discuss. Then just moving on to the major events fund. So the Combined Authority board agreed back in March for £6 million from the Commonwealth Games Legacy Enhancement Fund to create this fund that could support bringing major sporting, cultural and business events to the region. The growth company has developed a business case for this, which will be going to the Combined Authority's Investment Board on the 24th of July. What we're doing is seeking approval from this board to establish a regional advisory group that will support this process. So this group will look through the evaluation framework that we're pulling together and also the proposed process for identifying events and prioritising them. It will also look to consider scores for those events once they've been evaluated and agree a short list of events to receive funding. We would then like to bring both the framework and that shortlist to this board back in September for consideration and final approval. We're hoping that the advisory group will have either leaders or cabinet members with relevant portfolios as members of this group, of the board, along with the Combined Authority and representation from the Wellbeing Board as well, because we'd like to ensure there is strong alignment between the Major Events Fund and the Communities Grant Fund too. And we would look to have a number of advisors to that group, including DCMS and the Hospitality and Tourism Advisory Board as well. So welcome your views on that. Alongside this work, we're also hoping to secure funding for Sport Accord, and this is being taken through the Combined Authority governance processes. So this is a fantastic opportunity to bring kind of the federation of all sporting federations to the region next April, and it will be a great opportunity for us to promote all the assets and venues that we have here in the West Midlands and hopefully lay the foundation for 10 years of attracting major sporting events as well. So the reason I can't go through the other processes, we do need an immediate decision on that. And I know there was a conversation with the Mayor and portfolio leaders last week on that point as well, but just wanted to make sure EGB was aware too. So I'll pause there and happy to take any questions on either of those pieces of activity.
So a couple of points from me. What is particularly stark in the international strategy is the bullet point which talks the West Midlands is currently rated as a third tier location. I think that starkly stood out for me, quite frankly. So I think that if we can actually deal with that within the governance proposals and what's being proposed here, I think that's a really important issue. I'd also like to say I'm pleased that as the Deputy Chairman of Birmingham Airport, I'm pleased that we are identified within the documents and they will all be pleased. But notwithstanding, I'll take questions from the room and on the screen. Any questions or observations? We are being asked to approve one item, and that is the advisory group, but I'll take any comments or questions at this point in time. Any indications? Can't see. I'm sorry, Tim, I can't allow you to speak. That's fine. Any questions? No. Okay. I'll therefore put the proposals that are within the report. The recommendations are to note and discuss the progress of the West Midlands International Strategy, which I think we've done in part. Note and discuss progress with the Major Events Fund. Agree the establishment of the Regional Advisory Group for the Major Events Fund, which we report to the Economic Growth Board, and note that both the International Strategy and the Major Events Fund will be substantive items on the Economic Growth Board September meetings. All content? Thank you. Therefore, move to the next item on the agenda. I'll just turn my pages, which is Business Growth West Midlands. Paul, are you doing this one?
I'm really Councillor Slade.
You're doing. I didn't see you down at the bottom. Pages 99 to 106.
So I'll just pull out some highlights for members of the Economic Growth Board. Since we last met, you'll all have noted, and with great thanks to local authority officers and really strong example, as with previous items, of collaborative working in many ways. I'm solely the front man for all your teams that are working really hard on the business support ecosystem across the West Midlands. So credit solely goes to them, and blame probably largely with me for anything that members aren't happy with. So really thanks for that. And I'd also particularly like to call out the Watch Growth Hub and Greater Birmingham Solihull Growth Hub, who's through this transition period have been doing really strong advisory work and working really hard on this transition service. So quite a lot to be noted, and it's been really good exemplary. So since we last met, we've had the soft launch of the Business Growth West Midlands service. I'm really pleased to say that the number of businesses supported across the region has already increased since that soft launch. What soft launch means is that we're not heavily promoting the service, giving our local authority colleagues chances to really maximise their capability to address to that. And I'd particularly like to call out in the paper that the Black Country areas have seen 50% increase compared to what Black Country growth would dealt with, which is shows a strong story for that going forward. More to do, not less than laurels, but a good start. I'd also like to bring Economic Growth Board's attention to paragraph 3 around core funding from DBT. Office and trade. So the West Midlands Combined Authority have now received that funding as we had always anticipated, and what that does is it will unlock additional funding to support our businesses to the tune of £380,000. That's what that says. Questions on that. Clear, Councillor. Two updates since the paper was written. One that we're all moving quickly. So the website is now going from being a soft landing page to a more built out service. So if you're a business and you land on that page, it is when that paper was written. And secondly, the regional programmes are now all ready to commission. And before this meeting, one of the organisations that's leading on the decarbonisation program. So that is I'm happy to take questions and comments, Councillor Slade.
Okay, questions. The paper is primarily for noting, but we are actually asked to agree one particular item, which is the operations group, as I understand it. Questions? Anyone on the screen, first of all, wish to ask any questions or anything? The paper is before us. Anyone in the room?
No questions, just to say press on. I mean, there's a lot of work going. I know I'm told my team are actively involved in this, and let's progress and get on with it.
Absolutely. Steve?
Yeah, I'd like, and again, new to this, I'd like a bit more information on the priorities that were set last year and how we're going to resolve them moving forward. I note that some of the business support that's coming through the government is delayed. When we're going to get a steer on that, so it really needs. And what in the spirit of devolution is, how do we then, as each member, do actually have that hands-on delivery with regards to where we're from and how we do that, and that should build up the broader picture of the wider business support. We also need to make sure that we're mindful of SMEs again in that respect, so they can have their say and input into any share of opportunities that present itself. But it's really important that we do carry as many businesses, not just the big players, for the region. We're in our city looking for an entertainment space, so where does that fit into the strategy? But the key thing is how we deliver it locally for ourselves. That makes the overarching policy for the Combined Authority. That includes the districts as well, the non-constituent.
Paul?
Come back very briefly because quite a lot to unpack there. Happy to have a separate meeting, of course. So I should have made clearer in the verbal update. So we've now received confirmation from government.
420,000.
Yeah. So we can go forward with that, colleagues. You'll also be familiar that we've followed a mixed approach to business support, which is that on the ground business support sits with local authorities who understand their local business base.
Yeah.
So the Combined Authority is not doing any direct delivery to businesses. The complementarity to that is having regionally commissioned programs. So this is about, for example, the decarbonisation programs that operate at a regional level, delivered externally. Some local authorities bid for that work, and at least one of them won some of that work, to really focus on working with local authority areas to meet the needs of the businesses. But it's to try and counteract the fact that in previous approaches to business support, I think we had 12 decarbonisation programs across the 3-left geography. I'm not saying one is the right answer, but 12 is definitely the wrong answer. So to try and bring that together over here into play. So we don't want 7 or more decarbonisation programs. We want one that every business in the West Midlands can access on a daily basis.
And the proposals for the regional operations group come through the directorates within each of the local authorities. I think the Councillor Court's point that basically officers in that local authority are working well to try and bring some of this stuff forward. I think that's what it says in the report.
We've just had agreement previously with task and finish group, so the work is finished. I'd like them to continue.
Councillor Cotton, please.
Yeah, it's just a point around the shared prosperity fund, and obviously the issues that we've had around getting sign off and approvals from government. I understand that some of those have now been resolved, but I do think we just need to flag the fact that this issue of annual funding arrangements is really unsatisfactory, and I think we need to continue to put pressure on government to move away from those kind of arrangements, because it's clearly causing all sorts of obstacles and delays for stuff that we want to just get cracking on with. So I'd really urge that we continue to put that pressure onto government around the change in the annual funding arrangements.
Yep, noted. Corinne, please.
Yeah, just say it's really good to see that everything's taking shape at the moment. We need to make sure though, don't we, that there's an awful lot of really good business support really taking place across the region. So around start-up, scale up through the universities, chambers, other business organisations. How we coordinate that and refer to it will be essential to getting a really good level sort of support package across the area.
Thank you. Do you want anything, Paul?
No, just agree with both points.
The recommendations are contained within the documents. We all support it. Yeah, agreed. Thank you. I therefore move on to West Midlands Plan for Growth, which is a noting report. Again, Paul, it's yours. 107 to 114.
Yes, I'll be brief on this one, Councillor. Says quite a lot of detail in the paper, so happy to take any questions. The only thing really I would call out is since Economic last met, lots of delivery has now commenced and is in train. Sarah and I and others were at the launch of the Innovation Accelerator programs this morning, which I think landed very well and was very well supported. And with 300 people in attendance, almost 60% of those on the sign-up sheet were real businesses rather than the likes of me, which is a really positive thing to see, actually, and it hasn't always historically been true. So really strong interest from the business community in those projects. Members will also have been aware of the Co-Invest Fund has been launched since we last met at the back end of last month, and then there is some detail in there around deliverables programs currently in delivery, including the Make Smart Movement program, and then reference both to the Investor Readiness Training Programme and the Regional Decarbonisation Programme. Given this is a public meeting, and I don't think we've made who won those public as yet, but we have made those awards and those organisations know who has been successful in delivering those. I think what's really important, and to pick up on Corinne's point on the previous item, is what's really important here is the cohesiveness of the ecosystem. We could have 6 or 7 regional programmes here that don't talk to each other, that don't talk to advisors sat in Sandwell or Wolverhampton, and that would frankly, Economic Growth Board should give me a hard time if that is where we are in 6 months' time. So my role and what I'm trying to do on behalf of Economic Growth is to put that all together. So if you're a business sat in Sandwell or a business sat on the other side of the Hagley Road in Birmingham, you have exactly the same access to the support.
Yeah, okay. Any comments or questions on the screen before I come into the room? The Innovation Accelerator was launched this morning.
I'll come on to that later. if I may.
Okay,
Thank
that's
you.
fine.
That's-
And of course, the co-investment fund was equally launched recently, which I think is a real milestone for the Combined Authority being able to get that up and running at this point. So, Councillor Courts.
Yeah, really, it's really good to see so many things coming on. I mean, there's a good mixed bag of activities here, and it's really good. And I hope we'll promote them widely in the success of these measures as they go through. Just one detailed point when I can find the relevant paragraph, and that is under it's sort of SMEs, but there's various references to what they're looking at, but I didn't see. Here we are. 7.2 demand side barriers to SME investment include. And there are various things there, but I'm wondering, digital doesn't pop up particularly specifically. Now, I recall when we were doing the GBS LEP COVID, some of the COVID programs, the Pivot and Prosper things, how retail in particular, which is a lot of small businesses, often don't embrace the digital world and often don't know how to start there as much as others. And I just hope that we're going to, reflect that and make sure that we help those that could be, particularly with the state retail, that we could help in this situation.
Noted.
Noted and agreed, yes.
Okay, it's not mentioned.
Any other questions or comments? Andy? Yep.
Sorry, a bit slow with the mic. Can I just follow up on what Ian said? Because I think it's actually a very, very important point. And I'm not sure if Yanis is in the room, actually. He's down on my agenda, either Yanis or Ian Mansell to be there. But there's a lot of data around at the moment that we were looking at with Yanis last week, actually. And I'll just give you this because it'll make you think about how important Ian's observation is. If you look at AI, and the data was on the proportion of firms in each region that had got an AI specialist now. London was top, we were second, 20% of firms already employing AI specialists, and we were a long way ahead of the third place. So there is something really important happening here. We know it's our fastest growing. It's not a sector, people will correct me. But in terms of the cross-cutting piece, it's probably more important than anything else. So, Chair, I think it is right that Ian prompts us to take a stand back from how we're organised in that area, what we're doing to stimulate. And I think we could ask Yanis as West Midlands Tech just to bring a report back because it's a crucial future competitive issue.
I think we'll take that as an action. Yanis or Ian are not here, unfortunately, Andy, so we'll take that as an action. We'll note it in the minutes to be followed up on that basis. Paul, do you add anything?
Only to add, Andy, that Yanis is doing this work already.
Yeah.
And I think so a series of events will be held, and which he's calling, I think, an AI and Future Tech Forum aimed at our businesses. And he's also putting in place with our support quite a high level working board to really address some of these issues. So, but yes, it would be really good to bring it back.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Okay, the recommendations are listed at 107. It's just in essence, it's to note progress as an update, but we'll take that one action away into the minutes and we'll get Yanis to that piece of work for us going forward. Fine. We now move on to another major subject, skills, initiatives and delivery. I've got David's name against this. I know he's on the screen, and also Corinne, who's in the room. So who wants to do it? David, do you want to open this for us, please?
I will. Thank you very much, Colin, and great to see Corinne in the room as well. So very, very quickly, just to set the scene, local skills improvement plans are in response to the DFE's FE White Paper, which focuses on reforms of the post-16 education and training. Local skills improvement plans, and LSIPs, are actually designed for employers to set out the skills demands for now and in the future. And these skills improvement plans are pulled together on an annual basis and are led by an employer representative body. And we're fortunate to have Corinne as the lead on the employer representative body for this region, representing the chambers. The local skills improvement plans our college is expected to respond to local skills improvement plans through an accountability agreement. And as part of the LSIP, there will be local skills improvement funding which colleges will be able to work in to provide a response to the LSIP report. And the LSIP lead for this region will be Solihull College. I'll now pass over to Corinne, who will provide you an update on the actual report itself and what will be going to the Secretary of State for sign off, I think within the next week or so. Corinne.
Yeah, and just as you've seen the report itself, I mean, we spoke to over 1,000 businesses so at the start of the year from every sector, from a mix of deep dive roundtables, face-to-face meetings on sectoral, and all these are linked to the Combined Authority's plan for growth sectors. We also did a number of one-to-one interviews, around about 450 of those with businesses that were already engaged in the sector through chambers, the FSB, to other business organisations, and we spoke to around about 500 on the phone as well, who deliberately weren't engaged at all with providers or with business organisations. I think the stark finding from this was how many businesses just aren't engaged in the skills system all at the moment. Yeah. So around about 75% of the businesses we've spoken to hadn't engaged with a HEFE or an independent training provider in the last 5 years. Now, these are the businesses who have genuinely got skills needs, who genuinely want to grow, and for whatever reason they aren't engaged in the system. When we dug down a little bit from that, it wasn't that they didn't want to engage, but actually the noise from the sector, the amount of selling that was going on was putting them off from engaging. So we really had a really good chat to them about this, and we picked out all of those skills in there. So alongside the skills needs from that you'll see, this idea of employer engagement sits at the very heart of everything we do at the moment. And we're looking at models, particularly with David's support, around how can we don't want to create a new sort of one-stop shop for skills by any stretch of imagination, but how do we make the best of the resources we've already got? So every provider in the area has already got employee engagement teams. Can we train them up? Can we get them working better? How do we cross-refer so businesses are genuinely going to the right providers? And that was really good. And the final part about this is that actually having 1,000 businesses speaking, those who've been involved in skills work in the past, it's really unusual. Across the UK, across England, 30 odd these ones are done. So we start to look at the national issues so we can start to pick out those big skills issues that businesses really, really want. And it's a very, very different story from what businesses are saying they need to what policy comes down from DFE straight through to businesses as well. So how we use our skills Devo power, how we build that Devo deal in the future to genuinely reflect what businesses want will be the key to success of the LSIP. We've got funding for about another 18 months to keep on doing this. Hopefully we'll get some more at the end of that. And I'm sure that the Secretary of State will sign us off in a few weeks. But my final point is it's a strength, real strength of the West Midlands. And I've sat on a national group for this. The collaborations that are already taking place in no small part through to the Combined Authority agreements is amazing. And although, we don't all love each other, but we're all more or less getting on, and I think that in no small part puts us quite way ahead. The second part, and this isn't a political point, if I've done the earlier conversation, is that we cover the West Midlands and Warwickshire for this, and my chamber's Coventry and Warwickshire chamber. There's genuinely an ease when we start looking at solutions in the West Midlands Combined Authority area, because we've got powers and budgets to do some of the work we'd love to do in the local area. That's not the same in Warwickshire. So genuinely, when we're looking at businesses who don't care what local authority area we're in, the service levels for businesses, for those in Warwickshire in the West Midlands, will start to be defined, I would say, by the powers we've got at the Combined Authority level we don't have in Warwickshire. That's not a political point. That's just saying, as we had to write the recommendations for this report, it was really hard when we started looking at actions on those two levels of areas. But, we've got a good report here, brilliant business engagement, and I'm happy to take any questions on the report.
Thank you. Any questions? Matt?
I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I noticed the data's on the 7 Mets and Warwickshire. Would you be able to stretch any further to the non-constituent areas and the geography, kind of that, just to assist us when we're looking to apply for funding? Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
So we've done this in two ways. When we did a number of provider roundtables and sectoral roundtables. We didn't just stick to West Midlands businesses and providers for that. So anybody involved in any funding coming through the Combined Authority, we're involved in our provider workshops. We're using a system that Staffordshire, East Midlands, and ourselves are all using. It's the same data collection system. So we'll have a website soon that will not only show the data, we've got so much data sectorally, you will also be able to look at what the East Midlands have done and also what Staffordshire's done as well. I'm going to be sitting on the Shropshire a group looking at how they roll out the 18 months so that we can coordinate some of that as well. But more or less now, this data, although it won't all be through our LSIP, because we had a geographic boundary for that, I suggest across the West Midlands and the wider area for the 7 areas of the West Midlands are more or less coordinated on this as well. And we work hand in hand with these minutes on a day-to-day basis. So it's there. And if you are writing bids, just drop us a note. I'll make sure you get the data you need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just pleased to note the contribution of the Solihull College here, because I don't know how many people actually know the college. I've always had a bit of a complex that we don't have a university in our boundary, but we have lots of them, excellent ones nearby. But we do have Solihull College in, well, 3 campuses, and 2 of them in Solihull, and the blend of skills there in the North Solihull, which is at the end of the day going to be situated right in the middle of what I see as the East Birmingham North Solihull levelling up zone. The blend of skills there is really excellent. And then it's got a central Solihull campus. So I think there's a really good opportunity there for the region to capitalise on the the, should we say, trade and job skills there. As a reference to labour market challenges, I think, and a subgroup with Birmingham, Coventry, and Wolverhampton. I don't know whether one of my team would be interested in taking part, in joining that. We're in the middle. It would be useful, I think.
More than happy to do that. I mean, one of the things that struck you that skills pay second best to recruitment by a long way at the moment. Most businesses aren't interested in a skills agenda at the moment because they're so desperate to recruit good staff. And what that's meant, that's had a longer term impact on things like apprenticeship numbers, which are down, longer term courses. This idea of they wanting shorter pre-employment courses came out really loud and strong. So how we work that group will be really, really important for how businesses grow in the future, mate. So definitely
great opportunities.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Councillor Simpkins?
How do we intend to bring local authorities together to collaborate with regard to this? Because it's a key agenda for us. It's a key agenda for all authorities, I would imagine. I just need some insight of how we do collaborate and what input we could have. The other thing that I need to reassure is the actual delivery and how the people then through accreditation get through that, because the skills in the Black Country predominantly are going to be more difficult to teach and to learn because we're used to the traditional skills in engineering. Sadly, that's on the demise. So how do we incorporate the green sort of technologies and the courses that we put in there? But more importantly, is the providers actually doing what we ask them to deliver? And that's value for money. How do we then build in sustainability? Because for far too long I've sat here and listened to the skills gap and the skills deficit, and it's exactly the same as it is of the unemployment figures. So it's a big task and of challenge for us to do that. But there's opportunities in there as well. You said that businesses want skilled people straight away. So why do they employ them? And we can put the skills in place by there. But it couldn't just be academia. It's got to be vocational as well. And that's really key for us in the Black Country.
Right.
Good point.
It's for us.
Good point. Anyone, anything?
No, I 100% agree. I think it's the type of courses people want and how they learn. We had this discussion around digitalisation and net zero with every single business interview we did. And although all of them knew that they needed to move to a more digital and net zero agenda, all of them saw commercial opportunities in doing that. Hardly any of them were investing themselves in actually the skills needed and the project management skills needed as well. So how we begin to set those issues around sustainability, around net zero and digitalisation will be a big deal. And also we didn't push free training. We never mentioned that to this funded training, because I'll say this to the Chamber of Commerce, I'm a genuine believer that if you give businesses the right training, they'll pay for it. So I think what we need to do is move away from offering everything for free and start talking about them paying for it. And the final point being, sometimes free training twists what businesses really need. So sometimes, I'm not saying any particular colleges, we'll got sales teams, a business will want certain sort of training, someone will go along and talk to them and they'll sway them away from what they really want, something that's free and they're getting funded, they've got targets for. And actually they were willing to pay for something over here, but they've gone for the free training instead. So we need to get away from this narrative of free training is best and actually start saying to people, if it's the right stuff, we'll pay for it and get it done properly.
Thank you. David, do you want to come back?
Yes, it's just in response to the councillor's question there. I think just to respond, obviously the Local Skills Investment Fund, the LSIF funding, will support a range of projects off the back of the LSIP. So, for instance, one of the projects which will be funding will be around electrification and battery storage within colleges, and also around green skills, wider green skills related to retrofit. So there is aspects there of capacity building within the colleges which they'll be able to tap into to be able to respond to this report. In addition, obviously more from our own devolved powers, we've been working with the colleges through sector plans. So developing a range of sector plans across a range of sectors. Engineering, manufacturing also been a key one for the Black Country, so that again colleges can respond through the engineering and manufacturing plan for an offer to employers. I think the other point as well is about the collaboration with local authorities is really important, and obviously through our skills officers group, where we're working with each of the 7 LAs, we're taking the LSIP report to their skills officers group so they can think about how they can respond within a local authority area to the findings of the LSIP.
Yeah, excellent. That's good. And it of course does actually link entirely to our plans for growth, which is of course our strategic document. So it's important. Do you want to come back, Councillor Paul?
Well, just to make a point, I mean, this is moving forward, and I think we have a plan. Lots of stuff being done. We mustn't ignore what actually certain things have already been done, and I mean, referred to HS2, for instance, and the incredible skills that and vocational skills that have been developed by HS2 in that programme. Hundreds of people with no qualifications have actually been brought into, in that case, the construction industry, and
in a very inclusive way as well.
Very inclusive way, and what we're seeing, obviously, much of what we do in the region relates to construction and that type of thing. We know there are big skills gaps. Well, there always have been actually, but there still are enormous skills gaps that we need to fill. Across the whole range and be diverse. And you know how much I want a lot more ladies into the construction industry, promoting it for a long time.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point because we have developed programs over a period of time. We've invested in them. I know Andy and I have visited them. Got very wet one day where we put construction equipment in to enable people not to necessarily get an academic qualification to underpin the skill, but basically the practical experience to be able to work on those sites and deliver what people need. And we did get very wet actually. But Councillor Simpkins, please.
Yeah, just to say that, Ian's quite right that the skills was there and provided for HS2, but that sucked everything out of everywhere else, and that had an adverse effect. So with this opportunity, what we need to do is make sure that, again, that we manage that process so as it's fair across the piece and address the issues that we do. They had a real adverse effect for us, and projects that we've done push the cost up. We need to manage that.
Absolutely.
Chairman,
yeah.
I accept what Stephen says about that HS2 has had a big effect on availability, that there is a supply side issue, and that's what we're all here to address.
Yeah.
But you cannot get away from the fact that, 500-600 people, or that's what it was 6 months ago, have been taken off the unemployment register and given good jobs.
Yeah, fair point. Sarah.
So I'm just checking, so I report this back right. Is this the opposite way around on the funding side to what the growth company was saying? So it's the people have to be based within 7 Met geography, but the jobs can be based elsewhere.
For our data?
Yeah, for the funding, for the projects, yes. The
LSIP.
Electrification, green skills, construction for manufacturing.
Oh, the local skills investment fund.
Yeah.
I might defer to Dave on that. I think it's the learners have to live within the West Midlands CA and
but the jobs could be outside.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, and in terms of the actual projects, the projects are actually designed for the colleges within the area of the West Midlands Combined Authority and Warwickshire. So that is the catchment area.
Okay, thank you. Clarifies the point. Okay, the lessons for noting. We have one item to approve, don't we? Sorry, I just lost my page there. We have to approve the findings of the employer representative body to support the local skills improvement plan and supporting statement made by the WMCA to DFE in consultation with the portfolio lead and how its views were considered in the process. And B, to approve the WMCA support of the implementation of the local skills improvement plan as part of our new deeper devolution powers, including the endorsement of an expression of interest from Solihull College and University Centre to be the lead local skills improvement fund holder for WMCA areas in consultation with the portfolio lead. All content? All content. Thank you. Thank you, Corinne. Thank you, David, by the way. Excellent. Thank you. I'm now going to move on to understanding and addressing labour market challenges, job work stream. It's an update Fiona, I know you're on the screen because I've seen you. Do you want to open the report, please? It's a
Yes, thank you. And I've got two papers for you. They're both for information. I'll do a quick overview. I'm happy to take any comments, questions or emails outside of this meeting. The first is on the jobs work stream. If Economic Growth Board remember a while ago, we developed this programme of work to get underneath the regional labour market data. We often present big figures across the whole region, and yet we know it's in particular places and for particular people groups that we have specific challenges. So the work that we're doing is to get underneath that data. We're working with DELMA and the Economic Intelligence Unit to do that, and there was a data report presented for you. Then we're also working with a smaller group of local authority representatives. We asked for volunteers, and we're working with colleagues from Coventry, Birmingham and Wolverhampton. If any more of your colleagues want to join us, it's not too late. And that's to draw on your own local intelligence, but also the expertise with a wide range of think tanks, expertise, research agencies to try and understand what we might actually do to tackle some of the persistent challenges that we find within this region. And you'll see some of them outlined in the paper, the challenges we have around high youth unemployment, the growing challenge around economic inactivity because of ill health, the challenges we have about generational worklessness, and broader adult inactivity as well. What we are doing throughout the rest of the programme is then to find a couple of two or three totemic geographies or labour market issues where we will mobilise our resources in order to really try and crack some of those persistent issues. The small group that you have volunteered to be part of is steering that work, and we're also thinking about how we can use our skills investment, our wider UK SBF investment, the research base that we have, our wider partnerships to really focus on those issues. That's the first paper. The second paper is just to profile the level and profile of skills investment that we have made over this academic year, just for transparency. So our adult education budget, our work around free courses for jobs, which is at level 3, and our boot camp funding, how that's split across levels, how it's split across geographies, and how it's split across programmes. Those are my two papers. Thank you.
So there's 121 and 143 in the pack. They are for noting, but any questions or comments at this stage? None indicated. Any on the screen? None. Okay, we'll take those papers accordingly for noting as published. Item 14 in the agenda is the Economic Growth Board work programme, which, as I understand, is only for information. Jonathan, is that correct? It's a dynamic document and it changes, but it's up to date in this paper.
That's and we work very closely, particularly with the directors of economic development, to ensure that that's kind of kept live and local authorities are continuing putting good shape in that.
And if anyone believes there's something in there or not in there that should be in there, just tell me what they do about it.
Correct.
They tell you.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So that is in essence just for an information. I now move to exclusion of the press and public in accordance with Section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972. The public and press be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business, and they're likely to involve the discussion of exempt information as specified in the paragraph of the Act. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.